our church becomes vague and weak and less meaningful, the more vague, the more platitudinous we get. The more that we actually draw lines in the sand, the more we say this is true and this is false, this is right and this is wrong. The more we do that, the more we actually are something.
How about the car in the driver's seat? I pick you up, but there's only room for me.
Got our scripture notes up and running. All of the scriptural references used in this episode will be brought to you by scripturenotes.com. For a free trial to Scripture Notes, please visit the link in the description.
I bring the energy.
I have thought about how we should title this, and I thought something on the lines of Salt Lake City royalty are a cancer on the church, which some people are telling me is a little bit strong.
Savage.
So it's funny. I recently was in Salt Lake, kind of the Salt Lake area. And one of the things that I noticed, well, besides all the pride flags everywhere, was that there's a big time culture of affluence in Utah right now.
Yeah.
If you know anything about the Utah story is not a story of affluence.
Yeah.
It's a story of pioneers kind of eking it out. And it's sort of like we kind of have made it, at least the people there in Utah, especially with the new tech money that's coming in there now. Like there's a culture of affluence that's coming about because of that. And anyone who's familiar with the Book of Mormon should know that you need to be wary when you get to levels of or high levels of affluence.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I am noticing is, and this isn't, I'm using Salt Lake City as an example. I think it's something that goes broader than that. It can apply to all over the church.
Yeah.
And that is to be wary of when you begin to become prosperous. And I'm noticing something that is a little bit disturbing in the social media space. And I don't want to, I'm glad we have the ladies on with this because I want to make sure that I'm not picking on ladies. But
thank you.
Especially amongst sort of the white, suburban, educated, a lot
Not
of
awfuls, just call them awfuls. Affluent, white, female, ultra liberals. Just say it.
Well, it isn't just
sad.
Oh, you've never heard that before?
No.
Oh, yeah, they're called awfuls. The affluent, white, female, ultra liberals. You've never heard that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
gosh.
Welcome to the studio, Erica.
Thank you.
So
Should be fine.
So my take though is that as I look online, especially in places like Instagram and other places, and it isn't just women. I'm saying it happens a lot amongst women. It's more than just that. Is you have these people that have become very educated in sort of the soft science field. A lot of times they have bachelor's degrees or master's degrees, and they begin to get into sort of this space of giving advice to everyone else about life and the way things are supposed to run. And you have a lot of these coaches now, sort of life coaches. And I'm not against all sort of life coaching, but there's a lot of really dumb life coach sort of, I call them platitude pushers, that they're basically giving shallow platitudes as like life advice. And then they get this sort of group of people around them that are like, oh, this is so great. This is so wonderful. And I'm looking at what they're actually saying. And I'm like, there's no substance to this. It's really shallow stuff. And one of the things I wanted to do with you guys is kind of explore some of the things that they're like, what some of these platitudes are and why I think they're, not only are they not helpful, I actually think that they're dangerous. And that they're harmful.
Dangerous. Well, okay. The bottom, the slippery slope, I guess, inherently, if you take things to a logical conclusion, could be indeed danger. But before you continue, I will give you some credence here. I looked up just Brigham Young quote on fearing wealth. And I remember he said, the worst fear I have about this people is that they will get rich in this country, forget God and his people, wax fat and kick themselves out of the church and go to hell. So, you know what I'm saying? Awesome quote by Brigham Young. But that's true is oftentimes there's a correlation in what the Book of Mormon calls the pride cycle in Helaman 5, I believe it's called, in which unfortunately before you forget God and his people, wax fat and kick yourself out of heaven and its blessings, it's often a result of a wealth that comes from being humble and godlike and, putting aside your pride instead of succumbing to your pride. So I think you're right. It seems like Utah does seem to be on the top of the pride cycle, and that should not be, especially in a state that is 50% people who supposedly have covenanted to read the Book of Mormon that talks about the pride cycle, right?
Absolutely.
So thoughts. Okay, so what are our thoughts? Ladies, do you have anything you want to jump in on? Are you done with your opening salvo,
I'm
Jacob?
done with the opening salvo. We'll get into those statements, but I would ask kind of the ladies here, have you guys noticed sort of this in the online space amongst women of kind of this life coaching that maybe isn't as helpful?
I mean, I see it. Utah is known for the Mormon mommy influencers, right? So I think sometimes they start with that, and then I can see where you're coming from, where they kind of delve into the positivity, women can do no wrong, affirmations, and I get it. So I'm interested to see why that's dangerous. I can see why it's kind of just like fluff and not very helpful. But I'm interested to hear why it's so negative. And also, I saw on TikTok actually, Alyssa Grenfell just said how the Mormon church is paying Utah Mormon influencers. And
Oh my gosh.
I just want to say, yes, they are. But when I received my check, it was not, I'm not going to get wealthy off of it. So, I mean, you're kind of right, but kind of wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I think about it. So I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on Instagram. And of course, I was following all of these moms who were like, here's how to keep your house clean. Here's how to meal prep. There are these great recipes. This is what I do to help my kids learn and grow, blah, blah, blah. So I started realizing, though, that, of course, they were selling a ton of stuff, and then I'm buying a ton of stuff. And the more that I followed them, I felt worse and worse about myself, thinking like, they are perfect and they are doing all of these amazing things and their house is always clean in the background. And then they were all friends with each other, and then they were selling each other's stuff. And I finally got to the point where I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. So I unfollowed all of them and just decided, I was like, I can't. And like you said, they're all from Utah, and then they would like buy these amazing houses, and it already looked beautiful, and it was like, this is disgusting. We are ripping out the staircase and the floors, and we're repainting. And to me, it was dangerous because, like I said, I was digging myself into this hole of like, oh, I feel bad about my house. I feel bad about what I look like. I feel bad about how my kids behave. And it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So that seems
Okay,
like an
dangerous for
indictment
me.
of just social media in general, and that's
Yes.
that's a little bit far from Salt Lake City royalty are a cancer. I mean, bro. Okay, so are we baiting and switching on the title here?
So no.
I want to get to these people are a cancer.
Well,
part.
I want to get into that.
If you're gonna go full Matt Walsh, I want to go full Matt Walsh.
All
Shit,
right.
you know what is a cancer, though? I'm
What?
just going to interject this one little thing.
Okay, what?
What Erica was saying about social media, I hate it when influencers and social media people, like you were saying, when they're all friends with each other, and it's like, oh, we're going to enter, you can enter this contest. Follow me and my 20 friends, and then you'll be put into this contest. I want to know from the sources, from influencers, is that really a thing? Do you really put all of our names, or do you just pick whoever you want? That's what I hate, and that's what's a cancer, because I've never won.
Well, but in Cardin, my thing is specifically, they were Mormon moms. And on Sundays, they were showing, this is what my family of 12 kids looks like going to church every day. And that's how I see it as being dangerous.
Oh, interesting.
And
okay.
we all talk softly on the way to church in the car.
Yeah, nobody's yelling at each other to put their shoes back on.
Yeah.
I love how none of us are from Utah, and we're talking about Utah culture right now. I will say this. I think that some of this is a natural indictment of what social media does. You know what I'm saying? And you do have to watch out for how you can somehow, pride is a sin of comparison. It's very easy to start comparing yourself to people that you see online on social media. But I want to get to Salt Lake City royalty or a cancer. That's where I want to know. I don't want to bury this lead, bro. So
All right,
hit me with
let's
it.
get into it. So my issue with is this. The things you guys have brought up, I agree, those are problems. But where I get into it is when they get into sort of ideological space and kind of telling people about how to live life, and they start, and it isn't just amongst, I wouldn't necessarily even say the mommy bloggers. I would lean more towards sort of the life coaching side of it.
Well, isn't that a natural consequence of social media though? Because for example, I've noticed, let's take Hawk to a Girl, for example. All right.
boy.
No, but just hold on. I've never seen you like scowl harder, Erica. That was just like, no, but Hawk to a chick, she just got really famous this month. Okay. She just became
And why
really,
is
really
that,
famous.
Carden?
She got famous for her awesome quote.
Oh, boy.
She
Oh
is
my
the chosen one.
gosh.
So no, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
You have to edit this out.
But like, no, we're not, because I'm making an example here. So Hawk to a chick, she says something funny online, and that funny thing goes viral. Now everybody knows what her face is, okay? But really, what else does she have to offer the world other than that? Other than, that funny instance that is more than her 15 minutes of fame. It's her 15 million views of fame, right? Well, now, I've heard all the apocryphal stories of her signing with an agent and now people planning her social media profile. Like, what do you do with all this famosity? You have to follow it with something. It's just like the guys that made that music video. Guess what does the fox say?
That's a great song.
They are amazing.
Well, what's their follow-up song going to be? Like, are they going to be a one hit?
Massachusetts was pretty awesome.
They have several follow-up songs and we play them with our kids.
Okay,
They're actually hilarious.
I get that they have, and they're comedians, so they can make other music videos, right? But what is somebody like Hawk to a Girl going to complete offering the world with her newfound fame and a newfound social media profile? So many people, whether it's the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders or whether it's Hawk to a Girl or whether it's some professional athlete, it's kind of weird. It's like the de facto thing to do on social media is give people unsolicited advice.
Well, so that actually is a perfect segue into my point here. Is what happens is when someone begins to get a following on social media, they begin to think that they are wise because they are popular. Okay. And I, having gained a little bit of a following online, I can see where that temptation is there. My thing is I generally am not saying things that I've come up with. I'm just regurgitating great stuff that much greater minds than myself have come up with, right?
Yeah.
If anything, I'm just sort of synthesizing that. The biggest problem that I have is when they start to get into sort of the life advice industry. And the problem is that giving people advice on how to live life and like how to find real fulfillment in life, that is an incredibly profound topic that is at the heart of what religion is about, philosophy is about. These are deep and meaningful conversations that have been going on for thousands of years. And what these people often put out is shallow, platitudinous garbage. Okay? And it gets eaten up by people because it validates things that they want to believe because it's all super vague. And here's what I mean. Okay, let's just start with life coaching.
Wait, are you saying that Hawk to a Girl can't compete with Marcus Aurelius?
Yes, that is what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is that these women who get into not just women, I got to be careful there. There also are life coaches like John DeLynn, who is not a therapist, just so everyone knows. He's not licensed as a therapist. He's a life coach, so he doesn't have to be regulated by any sort of a licensing board. But people get into this space of and again, I'm not saying they're all bad, okay? But what I'm saying is watch out for the ones that are platitude peddlers. So what platitudes? Let's start with a few of them, okay? Life coaching itself is sort of a vague platitude in a way. It's like, what do you mean life coaching? You're telling people how to live life to the fullest. Well, isn't that what the church is doing, right? We're teaching people how to live in the world in order to maximize their potential both in this life and the next. You're kind of almost like competing with the church in a way. Now, if the things you're telling people are consistent with the gospel of Jesus Christ, wonderful, all about it. But this is where I have a lot of issues. So let's just go through a few platitudes you see online. Love is love. What the heck does that mean? Here's the thing with platitudes. You have to analyze them for a minute. And what you realize is that phrase like love is love, what does that mean? It can mean a bunch of different things. It means kind of whatever you want it to mean. And that's why it's dangerous, because people will allow it to be what they want it to be. And they're not actually saying something specific that's true. They're saying something that different groups take differently and that they twist to make it what they wanted it to be, and to make it then it like justifies them feeling good about themselves. Right?
Okay.
So love is one. I mean, what, again, I'll just put that out there. What does that mean?
Yeah. So girls, respond to this, man. You're on Instagram. You're vacuuming up all these cute quote things that they put on the 1x1 pictures from Canva.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You were all ears. You girls could not shut up in the pre-show about these things and these influencers, and now you're all quiet. You know
Well, I just got like in trouble because I was talking about social media instead of youth in Utah culture.
I'm just kidding. That's funny.
Yeah, you told us to not talk so Jacob could get to his cancer thing.
Oh, that's funny. Well, now talk.
what
Now I want you to talk. Talk, please.
Okay, so when I hear the phrase love is love, I don't know where it originally came from, but I know that I associate it with the Pride movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is that? So what they're saying, let's get in and analyze this. Again, what are they trying to communicate? They're trying to communicate that gay relationships are morally on equal footing with heterosexual relationships. Okay. Now people say, well, that isn't what it's saying. You see how these phrases are so dangerous? Because what they do is that you can escape by saying, well, that isn't what it means. But it is what it means to the people that want it to mean what they want it to mean. So you use sort of vague language.
Like workers of the world unite. It's really pro-communism, but the second the communists are approached by it, they mop Bailey and say, oh, I'm just making sure we have a high minimum wage, you know, when in reality it's totally pro-communist platitudes.
These people use language to manipulate rather than to communicate.
Ooh,
okay.
That's
they
a good
use,
one.
and I'm kind of stealing this from Michael Malice, who said that. But what it is that the people who want to manipulate people, they will use vague language in order to kind of slip in truth and falsehood together to make it vague and platitudinous in order to, again, alter the way people perceive
like
things.
that Mormon ad with the cockroach in the ice cream that we all saw in the late 90s. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm just going to hold your feet to the fire, Jacob, and you can jump in because I see you want to talk, Erica. How does this make Salt Lake City royalty a cancer? Because so far we've gone from social media. So we make the claim Salt Lake City royalty are a cancer on the church. Then we immediately talk about social media, but now we've upgraded to fake therapists, aka life coaches. Now we're going to get how's the royalty a cancer on the church, man?
Because what happens, and I'm talking about royalty, and I'm using Salt Lake as an example. I'll broaden it out to people that are affluent. One of the things that they do is they get almost like bored. When you're struggling to like make ends meet, pay your bills, you're not spending a lot of time philosophizing and like life coaching, right? There are people who make a business out of that, and that's kind of their like career path. But
yeah, home wrecking for profit.
Okay, wonderful. But my thing is just this: when you get affluent people aren't, you know, your Hispanic family who lives in, you know, the working class neighborhoods of town, they're not like into like the Instagram social media life coaching stuff. They're trying to figure out like how they're going to land the next account for their landscaping business that they just started, right?
Yeah.
And so when people become wealthy, that's when they begin to enter this realm of sort of deeper philosophical thought, right? But the problem is that these people are entering it and they have no humility, and they begin to go out and basically just regurgitate stuff that gets them likes and clicks.
So I think if I want to try and distill this down to the layman, because you're a very philosophical person. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about you. I think you're trying to say here what our boy Rob Henderson said in 2019. He coined the term luxury beliefs. And the term is I'm actually just going to pull up the Wikipedia article right now. The term is a neologism, which I've never heard of before. That's awesome, though. Coined by social commentator Rob Henderson in 2019, it was coined to describe what he and some other commentators allege is a modern trend among mainly affluent Americans to use their belief as a way to, in their eyes, display their social status. Now,
Boom, mic drop. That's exactly correct.
yeah. So just like, see, now average middle class working people can afford an Escalade if you know how to work Poshmark like Erica does and like Cardin does on behalf of Brittany over here. You know, you can get your wife in some really nice red bottoms. You can buy the Jimmy Choo's half off that Megan Fox was wearing on the red carpet at the Met only 6 weeks ago for 50% off, a couple $100. And that's all Aldo's cost now. You know, the internet has very much democratized luxury goods. See, now, if you really, really, really like that Carhartt shirt, there's a chance you could find some store going out of business in Philadelphia that has excess inventory and is listing those $50 Carhartt shirts for like $25 each on the internet. And the internet has made it so that luxury goods have never been more accessible and affordable to middle class people. So you can no longer show off your wealth with your red bottoms if you're wealthy Erica on the Upper East Side of New York. If you're wealthy Brittany, who's a Laker girl fraternizing with professional basketball players, then you can no longer show off your wealth with your Escalade, because now middle class mommies can afford an Escalade. How do you show off your wealth? Well, you have to show it off through your virtue signaled beliefs on social media. And what's the ultimate luxury belief? Transing the kids. That's the ultimate luxury.
And
belief.
I would say, I would also say this, that my issue isn't that people have certain beliefs. It's that these beliefs are so shallow and contradictory to the gospel. Here's an example. Live your truth.
Okay.
What in the freak does that mean? If you take a minute, the thing about a platitude, the way you know it as a platitude is just question it for a minute. Be critical. Think about it. What the freak does that mean? Live your truth.
Yeah, what's it mean, girls?
It means be authentic to who you are.
And who are you?
Well, what's that mean?
What does that mean?
It means
go ahead, Eric.
So I think that a lot of these phrases, they have like sometimes they can have really good intent behind them, but like when you twist it a little bit, it could mean something different.
Absolutely.
Like the live your truth thing, I think that people will use that as an excuse of just like, oh, well, that's how I am. Or like, boys will be boys. Like, that's my excuse to not have to teach them to control their thoughts. But at the same time, like, if you're telling someone to like live their truth, they're going to use that as, well, I guess I just repeated myself now, but they're just like, well, I'm living my truth and this is my authentic self and I'm just that's
awesome. I love it. I will be editing that one out. I will be editing out at 25 minutes and 41 seconds.
So,
but I will say this though. This is one thing I will say that actually it challenges a little bit your position here, Jacob, is I would say I'm 90% with you that I think half of these platitudes are just vapious nonsense. And if we keep just feeding ourselves off of these emotional appetizers instead of digging into the meat and bones of real philosophy, real religion, real actual thought here, that we will forever just have fatted calves ready for the slaughter as people instead of warrior priests. And we need warrior priests, not more fatted calves, right? So I'm 100% there with you. At the same time, I can see why actually some of these platitudes might be very important for the modern woman, because I think the modern woman has been confused and enslaved by so much. They're told that they have to go out and be boss babes, and they have to have a career and a degree and all this very difficult stuff to achieve, right? But simultaneously, you can't stop biology. They feel also that they have to have the perfect house.
That's my
and they
thing
have
is
to
this-
have the perfect everything.
So this
So
is where
this is why it's dangerous, though. This is why it's dangerous. It causes more confusion. The thing about platitudes is they don't actually resolve
But what if it
anything.
helps? I think there's a
It
lot of
doesn't
women.
help. It actually causes more problems because you're not being specific.
Okay, well, hold on.
Authentic, like you want to be authentic. I want to use this one. Sorry if I'm going on a little tangent, but I want to
hear what
hammer
Brittany
this
had
one.
to say.
I know. I want to get to her.
Me
1
too.
second. Like being authentic. Okay? Authentic to what? Authentic to your own hedonic whims?
Maybe not. The way I would interpret that is, for example, maybe social norms would discourage you from saying that you didn't like something, but you're going to not do it even though it's a social norm because, frankly, you don't see the purpose or it causes you too much stress.
Well, then,
so if I
then
were
be
a woman,
specific and talk about the very specific things. One of the things is Jordan Peterson has this great rule. He says, don't hide things in the fog. Be specific. Be careful with your speech. Be direct. Be clear. This sort of language, be authentic. What does that mean? The problem is that people, as Erica pointed out, twist these phrases to mean whatever they want. And this is why they're dangerous. It's the cockroach example that you gave earlier. There's a sense in which when you hear these words, they sound good. There's all this cake. The problem is that because they're not specific, people can use those phrases to be authentic to, well, my authentic self says, I'm in love with this other woman at work. Right?
yeah.
And so I'm going to leave my wife because I got to be authentic to myself and live my truth.
yeah, there's not an actor in Hollywood.
Erica's over there. Erica's over there.
No,
like-
seriously.
He works alone in an office in our backyard, so
You're not supposed to let everybody know that.
Savage. So Brittany, finish what you're saying.
Sorry, Brittany.
You
No,
know,
it's
finish-
okay. I think I forgot.
That's funny. Well, I would say I agree that maybe we need to be specific, but brevity is the essence of wit, and I would also say brevity is the essence of Instagram. So maybe we need to get a little bit of specificity and some gatekeeping back. Like I think a lot of
There's a lot of big words like brevity. Like what?
you know, well,
Be direct in your speech.
yes, exactly, because brevity is the essence of so here's
But be specific in your speech.
I'm getting specific, and I'm saying this. I think that the Christian right in the 90s and the affluence of the Reagan era and the expansion of suburbia as a very powerful force in American culture, wealthy suburbia, did not exist pre-war. And by the 90s, it was perfected. And that social change, was created in a very short period of time after World War II. Okay. And I think in the growth of suburbia post-war, especially during the Cold War, there was a lot of pressure to conform. And capitalism and our side of the argument was fighting communism and their side of the argument. And the overarching ethos of the Cold War created a very conformist culture. We needed to cooperate to defeat the Nazis, and we will need to cooperate and be as one in a cohesive front if we're going to defeat the Ruskies and the USSR, right? And so when you look at the music of that era, the rebellion, the hip, the new, the fresh, was a rejection of that conformity, right? Which yielded the culture we grew up in that unfortunately was overly chaotic. And the average woman now, I think, kind of begs for a little bit more order. Like, okay, I think it's okay that we don't shun women for like having sex before they are married or like moving in with their boyfriends before they were married. Like maybe we don't need to utterly ostracize them from society. But also my friends have turned into whores. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, maybe we could have a little bit of some. Rachel Patterson said this on my show. She's like, maybe we should bring back a little bit of social stigma. You know what I'm saying? Because literally announcing your body count on TikTok,
But
may not be a good thing for society.
But
you know,
Cardin, it's their, let's use another platitude, it's their lived experience. And are you not, another platitude, validating other people's lived experience? Do you see how this sort of language can be used to make, like, what does it mean to validate someone's lived experience? And why do I care if your lived experience, why do I have to validate that?
Yeah, how do we validate you ladies? What can we do
Witness
more?
me. Mad Max.
Have you ever seen Mad Max, Erica? No. Oh no! Right before the guys do something crazy, they say, "Witness me!" And then they spray like chrome spray paint on their teeth and then like jump in front of some crazy truck. Like it's totally the nuttiest thing you ever saw in your life. And so our kids, whenever they want us to see something and they come out like, mom, look, dad, look. We always just like joke with each other. We're just like, witness me, you know?
Well, and I honestly think that's what it is. They want like, okay, fine. I see that you had this certain experience in life, but that has no relevance on moral truth, right? What you did, if it contravenes what is moral and what is right and what is good, as Latter-day Saints, we don't live in a fog. We have clarity on things. Like we're trying to create clarity because truth is found in clarity, in specificity. Where when you just retreat to these vague platitudes where you can justify anything as my lived experience and my authentic self as I'm living my truth, it's like you're not saying anything.
That you're just justifying a distasteful man bun and the worst patchwork tattoos that you could buy in Salt Lake City,
I
right?
don't like that look though.
Okay, so girls, where does Jacob Hansen go wrong? Do you have any pushback here?
That's one for Erica. Erica.
I push back frequently. Well, I feel like, again, like you can take a phrase and twist it for the bad, or you can take a phrase and twist it to make it validate you, right? So that you don't have to change and you don't have to become better. But I think you can also take those phrases and make it worse. Like I am good enough, right? You could take that and say, okay, that means I don't have to work on myself at all. I'm just good enough the way I am. But kind of
End by 3 Cats and every Taylor Swift album. And
I see nothing wrong with that. You sound like that's a bad thing.
But like what you were saying, Cardin, is that there is so much pressure. And I don't want to just say women, but I will say women because that's what I can relate to. It's like your house needs to be clean all the time. You need to make a healthy meal for your family. You have to be a boss babe. You have to, like, there's so much that it's okay to think that, like, what I am doing is enough. I have enough on my plate. I can't do anymore. I don't want to be a boss babe. We're eating out tonight because my house is a disaster and I've been stressed all day and I don't want to clean. So for today, like, I am enough.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't have to work on my inner self.
I 100% agree with that. And I would like to think, Jacob, that instead of seeding doubt and a lack of clarity, that the people posting this are trying to encourage that interpretation. Okay. However, there are evil forces in this world with evil designs that would manipulate that for nefarious ends. You're jumping out of your seat.
I am because Erica makes the point. The point is that the reason people like these phrases is because you can use them for what you want to use them for.
And the Salt Lake City royalty wants to do what with us? Make us eat the bugs?
They make money, these influencers, by getting everybody to like these phrases where they're not actually being specific. What they need to do is they need to say, hey, they need to say what Erica just said. They say, look, life is complex. You need to balance the very difficult challenge of recognizing that you're never enough in the eyes of God, in the sense of like you are not justified by your works only, but you also have to deal with the fact of that you are loved. And if your house is dirty today and you got to go just take the kids out to eat at McDonald's or whatever, you're not a bad mother, right? And so, but at the same time, this is a complex matter. A complex issue that's being reduced down to a stupid platitude to make everyone feel justified in wherever they're at, rather than getting specific and dealing with the nuanced complexities of life. And the thing is when people just push platitudes out there to people to make these phrases mean whatever they want them to mean, they're not actually helping. They're just telling people, hey, I'm going to give you these feel-good phrases, and then you guys are all going to like my content because I'm never doing what the prophets are supposed to do.
Yeah, and I'm not actually serving you in a meaningful way.
You're right, and I'm not telling you the truth. Because what I need to do is, because the truth is specific, I need to say, like Erica said, the world is complex, and these phrases aren't enough to capture it. You need to figure out through the Spirit of God in your life whether you need to kind of get your act together, or if the Lord is going to tell you, you know what? You are loved the way you are, and God bless you for all that you're doing. And because you don't need to beat yourself up over these things.
Okay, so
Wait,
Erica,
so
jump in. Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, so are you validating my lived experience?
No, I'm not. No, because that, again, it's a stupid phrase. I would be like, what do you mean by validate? And what do you mean by your lived experience? Okay, I did something. Validate it. It's like, what does that? What do you mean validate
Witness me!
Just say, yes, that happened to you. And I know that happened, but I'm not going, like, am I passing any sort of a judgment on that when I validate it? To validate something means to grant some sort of a stamp of it's valid.
Approval.
Exactly. It's approval. There's an inherent idea of approval in something. And I don't approve everyone's lived experience. I say that you made a bad choice or you made a good choice, right? And we need to evaluate according to some sort of a moral system what choices are right and wrong. And so what this does and why it bugs me so much is because life is actually complex, and life coaching is something that like the greatest minds in human history have been thinking about for a very long time. And these platitude pushers, they haven't read any of it. They don't understand the real deep nuances of life, and they don't give real helpful, meaty advice to people that they can actually use. They just give people feel-good, fluffy bullcrap that they then adapt to basically whatever they want it to be.
Okay.
Because they probably don't know what their life is doing either. So
And-
they don't really have any advice except for vagaries.
And so often these life coaches, if you go look at their personal lives, it's like, I don't know that they should be coaching people.
Okay, so now really fast, let's get real specific. In the vein of getting specific, define the Salt Lake City royalty that engages in this more often. Because so far we've indicted social media and we've indicted life coaches. Are you saying that life coaches are Salt Lake City royalty?
Yeah, you want me to give you some specific people that I would see as examples of this sort of
Yeah,
of
sure. Because
stuff
when I
online?
think Salt Lake City royalty, I think like
Julie
the
Hanks.
Huntsmans,
Yeah, I would say Julie Hanks, Papa Osler. I even, to a certain extent, and I really like these people's content, but a lot of them on their social media, it's just not really great. And that is, I'm going to probably get some crap for this one, but like some of the stuff that like Hank Smith puts out, I like Hank Smith a lot, but sometimes he puts out stuff that I'm just like, bro, this is a platitude. Like you have the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like, why don't we get into that?
Sorry, Hank.
So
Sweet.
he is, no, I like Hank a lot, but I think again,
This is the intro now, bro. We're putting Hank Smith on blast for the intro.
I like Hank. I don't want to beat up on Hank at all. I would say that sometimes he puts out content that I'm like, come on, man, you have the gospel of Jesus Christ. I know you're a really sharp guy. Don't get engaged in the platitude game.
Well, I got to tell you, it is really disappointing to see that I think what you're really trying to say is that not that Salt Lake City royalty are a cancer upon the church, but the intelligentsia is a cancer on the church.
Have you ever heard that word before?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Intelligentsia?
big words. I'm just pretending.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, I feel like an idiot when I come on these podcasts. I'm like, brevity, intelligentsia. Like, yeah, I'm going to use that in a sentence today.
Okay, well, here's a new one for you, babe. Intelligentsia. So I think the person you are indicting, those that you are indicting are the intelligentsia, not necessarily the royalty. Because like when I think of royalty, I think of like people with big last names that have been in Utah for a long time, because Utah fancies itself some northeastern blue blood state, with legacies. Like they got their own Kennedys, they got their own, legacy families. And I think of like the Huntsmans with their incredible wealth, and so on and so forth. That's what I think of royalty. I think you're indicting the intelligentsia. And I agree with you. Well, hold on. Let me tell you how I agree with you.
Together. I would say that those two groups, the intelligentsia in Utah are often these wealthy suburbanites who they can become very popular by playing the platitude game.
Well, and
Brigham Young didn't play the platitude game. Joseph Smith did not play the platitude game. If you go read our church's history and you look at what we did when we actually have had great success, it was because we got in there into the real issues. Platitudes get a lot of, it's sort of like trying to be pleasing to the world because people love platitudes. That's why they're useful.
Okay. So I want to validate your lived experience, okay? And I want to actually tell you where I agree. I would say I believe there is a craving, especially amongst the men of the church, for there to be famous masculine men. Sometimes I want to follow cool guys in Mormonism, right? And I got to tell you, I have not been wowed by Hank Smith. And that's not to diss him. I think there's an audience that loves him. But like sometimes I do see his posts and I think, bro, are you trying to outdo the Relief Society president on like niceness? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what niceness
and then you
culture.
well, hold on, let me finish. You got to talk a lot.
That's fine,
all
that's
right.
fine.
I'm just saying, and also, who's the guy that always buttons up the top collar and was with Emily Bell Freeman?
David Butler.
Yes.
Yeah, David Butler. I look at Dave Butler and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, you seem like a nice enough guy, right?
Nice.
But yeah, it's like, you know, I've drank your appetizer. I had the Shirley Temple and those really nice rolls at Red Lobster, but pretty soon the steak and lobster is showing up, right? And no, we're not getting steak lobster. We're getting Relief Society quotes, right? And I can't really think
It's
now.
super salad at every Relief Society event. It's
Yeah.
kind of a bind.
Get up. But I'm just saying that like amongst the intelligentsia of, especially the online intelligentsia of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I think there's a craving for more profound and masculine philosophy that is presently not rewarded. And I don't know if that's a reward structure of social media itself and a natural consequence of 2024 social media, or if it's a lack in our culture. And I actually think it's probably more a lack in our culture because our culture currently does not reward masculinity. It rewards males behaving in a profoundly feminine way.
Being nice. Platitudes are niceness culture. That's why what you do is you go out and you say things that everybody's going to clap for, right? This is so nice. Live your truth. You know, love is love, you know. And obviously I'm not saying that Hank Smith and those people, the thing about a platitude is that it's vague and it feels good, but it doesn't actually say the truth. I have found, and this has been one of the wild things about my channel as I've done this, I've had a goal to tell the truth, okay? And what I have found is that people respond to that.
It wasn't to take down Julie Hanks. Okay, no.
And
That's all I had to do is tell the truth, and that happened.
does the truth hurt, or is that a platitude?
No, the truth often, that's a truth. The truth does often hurt those. That's what the scriptures teach. See, here's what's wild. When you get into the scriptures, it tells the truth. And the truth is actually kind of gnarly and it's complicated and it's difficult but it deals with the real nature of the world. And so my point is this, our church becomes vague and weak and less meaningful, the more vague, the more platitudinous we get. The more that we actually draw lines in the sand, the more we say this is true and this is false, this is right and this is wrong. The more we do that, the more we actually are something. You create definition by creating contrasts. And the more you turn our religion into gray, and it's vague, and it's kind of whatever people want it to be, the less it will inspire people to actually do anything.
Okay, so then as we finish here, I first want to get Erica and Brittany's opinion here. Do you think Jacob is on track here, or is he overlooking something? Can you think of some well-promoted masculine examples of men that you would want your children to follow and aspire to besides Jacob here? And then you can think on that for a second. And then the second question.
You want me to think of masculine men right now?
Yeah.
All right.
You got two right in front of you, babe. No, I'm just kidding. But can you think of anybody that you both have sons? Can you think of anybody, unfortunately, were something to happen to Jacob Hansen? Could you think of somebody in the intelligentsia currently right now that you would, or a social media profile you'd really like your sons to be following in hopes that they might be, inspired by some, positive masculinity there? So is he wrong? Is it all just platitudinous garbage? Is he overlooking something? And then I forgot what the second thing was. So we'll start with that one.
I'm still trying to think of what the first question was. That was a lot of words. But thinking of masculine in the church, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, because he's indicted Salt Lake City royalty and the intelligentsia. And frankly, I can't think of somebody that's not famous in their own right already in the culture at large that's a very masculine person in Mormonism that enjoys kind of promotion, shall we say, like
Well, I mean,
a lot of the
they're
effeminate
older
versions.
now, but like the prophet, I mean, he was like a heart surgeon. That's
Hey,
pretty masculine.
That's a good
That's
answer.
a good one.
The I think the brethren do an excellent job. Like some people have complained, like, oh, they're being more platitudinous. I don't think so. You go read the talks of like President Nelson and President Oakes on the subject of the plan of salvation. Those weren't platitudes, bro. Like they were getting into the meat, and it was inspiring.
Okay, this was before they got afraid of the feminist?
Oh,
Or
boy.
was that no? Just kidding. Okay, so that's a good answer, Bird. Erica, do you have one?
You say in social, they have to be in social media?
Or it can be in the culture at large. Originally, it was amongst the intelligentsia, but
Gosh.
you know that was a good answer. Though maybe you have to step outside of the intelligentsia to get the
Still
real.
don't even know what the intelligentsia is. I feel like it's like a galactical, like you gotta step outside that planet. Like I don't even know what intelligentsia
Okay,
is.
intelligentsia. How would you describe intelligentsia, Erica slash? Help a sister out here, Erica, Jacob. How would you explain? I'm gonna look it up on the computer right now.
You don't know what it is either.
What?
No one knows what this word
I
is.
know what it is.
I know what my interpretation of this platitude
No, the
of
intelligentsia is like the people that come. They're the gatekeepers of that which is.
Intellectual.
Intellectual and smarts. They're the smarty pants, for lack of a better term, in a culture. And they're the ones that are deemed those who actually know things. So like, for example, in ballet, the top 5 directors of ballet, whether it's the San Francisco Ballet or the New York Ballet or the Moscow Ballet and so on and so forth, that top 1% of people that function as the gatekeepers of performance and knowledge in ballet could kind of be called the ballet intelligentsia. That's a very not great example, but that's kind of where it goes from there.
Cool.
You know, you dig?
Yeah, thank you.
That's funny. Okay, so anyway, is that it? And you're saying so do we need to modify this thumbnail saying Salt Lake City royalty are a cancer on the church? Instead, we should say Salt Lake City intelligentsia or Mormon intelligentsia is a cancer upon Mormonism?
Nah, I think the intelligentsia is part of the royalty. The thing is that they
What's the fix then?
The issue is this: when we become wealthy and sort of detached from and in this world of luxury beliefs, what happens is people want to show their status by virtue signaling. And the way you virtue signal and you become popular with the world isn't by telling the truth. It's by giving platitudes that people can twist into whatever they want.
Okay, well, what's the fix then? We realize what the problem is, but we got to get to the fix.
Okay, wait,
what's the
hold
fix?
on. Is this kind of like the Super Bowl commercials with Jesus where everyone was up in arms because they were like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I can't remember what the caption was, but it was something like, actually, Jesus didn't do that. But they made it seem like he was all inclusive. I can't remember what the caption was.
There's another word, inclusive. What does that mean? We're not inclusive in the church. We exclude people. We literally excommunicate people who do certain things.
We do have a litmus test. We don't exclude people for arbitrary and unimportant reasons, but we do actually have there's moderate gatekeeping in our church, and there is a minimal litmus test. You have to pass.
There's pretty strong gatekeeping for things like the temple. That is an exclusive thing to be able to go to the temple.
That the intelligentsia do.
So my whole point is again, I think when we get out of these platitudinous language that's out there, I think the fix is this: tell the truth. And when you tell the truth, be specific about it. Okay, get away from this nonsense. If you anytime you see someone who's putting out a lot of platitudes, you see someone that's doing that, remember, this is not a person who's deeply thinking about the issues, because platitudes don't actually mean much. When you really find people that go beyond the platitudes and really try and get into the complexities of life and that are connected to people who actually have thought deeply about these issues and are having those conversations, that's where you actually get really interesting things coming about.
Okay, well then just one question. Who's not telling the truth enough? If the problem is that we're never getting to the meat and potatoes because we're stuck on the appetizers, and the intelligentsia is letting us down by just feeding us platitudinous garbage, and you say the fix is for us to tell the truth, who's the sentinel that's asleep at the gate? Who should be speaking truths that isn't speaking truths? Who is letting us down that has let this engine fall out of balance? Who's the ones that's failing? Brittany, Erica.
I think you could say every member of the church.
I agree.
So are you going to start telling your friends they look fat in that dress? Or like what?
I'm not intelligentsia, so
Yeah, who's failing us? Are the brethren not being
I
robust enough in their denunciations of social maladies? Is that a word? That's a word, right?
Yeah, that is a word.
Yeah,
I don't know,
maladies.
don't ask me.
Yeah, exactly. So who is asleep at the gates?
I would say that it is a cultural thing within the church that we are so concerned with the niceness culture. And I don't think that anyone can, like, the culture is bigger than any one individual or even a group of individuals per se. The culture is largely determined by all of us as members. Okay. And our culture has become so obsessed with being nice that we no longer are willing to tell the truth. And so what happens is that, but there's a way to see, this is why those platitudes are so terrible, is that you're telling a half truth. Because you can take a platitude, like Erica pointed out, and you can use it towards good purposes. I am telling the truth,
Well,
but I'm
let's
telling
not-
it in such a vague way.
Okay, but let's not give a platitude as the prescription for the fix. Because when you say the fix to the platitudes is the platitude of telling the truth, what does that mean?
Be specific. I
Okay,
think
so
Jordan
how can
Jordan Peterson has a whole thing that he talked about. He gave a conference in Utah, actually, which is almost prophetic in my mind, where he talked about this principle of don't hide things in the fog. When you want to resolve issues, if you actually want to fix things, you have to get specific.
So what does the layman like me and Erica and Brittany, what do we got to change in our individual
we gotta
lives?
start flipping tables like Jesus did.
That may be a solution sometimes. I would say that just adopt the principle into your life of being precise in your speech. Okay? Say what you mean and be as specific as you can whenever you're dealing with stuff. You want me
So
to give
don't
an
say
example?
she looks fat in that dress. She looks fat in that dress. So don't say that. Just say it has a tasteful bust line and
Why is
the
that
length
the first
is
thing
good.
that comes to your mind?
But it gives you a muffin top. Like, is that what we
gosh.
should be saying? Or like what?
Look, there are times to keep our mouths shut where there are milk before meat, right? Like, I don't think you have to go out and there are times that we have to be guided by the Spirit on when to say things that are unpopular. But the problem is that we're so concerned with being accepted by others and being nice that we aren't ever willing to have kind of the real conversations about things. And it creates a culture of confusion, as I've talked about on my channel. It creates a lack of clarity for people. But when you can get specific and teach correct principles in the specific, things change. He used this example in the Utah address that he gave, Jordan Peterson. I thought it was brilliant. And Erica and I could, in fact, I've tried to even apply it in our marriage as a principle.
This is a dangerous game.
Erica's a little scared here.
Hey, has your relationship been Jordan
Are
Peterson?
you ready to edit
Yeah.
stuff out, Card?
So the basic idea though was that, okay, if I want to film and do like WardRadio stuff, or I want to do
Cool.
stuff on my channel. Well, there's a question of it. I'm like, I could just go to her and be vague about the problem. I could say to Erica, I want more time to do WardRadio stuff. And she's like, well, I need you more help around the house or whatever. Okay. And now we're both in the realm of vagary. Well, what he suggested as a clinical psychologist who's dealt with people says, get specific. Say, okay, first of all, is 0 like times a month? Is that the amount that I'm allowed to do interviews with people on my channel? Like, is that reasonable? And she would hopefully say, no, you can interview people, right?
I'd like to say I had no idea that this was happening.
Well,
I'm not a bad one.
no, we did
So-
talk about it though. We tried to come up with how often can I do interviews each week.
Okay, cool.
Because it is true that like if I'm
So
interviewing
instead
someone
of Brittany saying, you don't make enough money, Cardin, quit playing around with podcasts, she should say, I need at least an extra $56.25 a month.
yes.
For okay, cool.
Okay, so literally it was we came up with, and I
By the way,
remember
that's
this-
$5,625, not $56.25.
So let's shoot for the moon here.
But by getting specific, I now know, because Eric and I have communicated, that I can do at least one interview a week. Okay? And that's totally acceptable by her. So now, because we got specific, I now know that I am authorized to do an interview each week.
Authorized.
Right?
This makes me look horrible.
No, it doesn't.
I have authorized you to do one interview a week.
But we have negotiated. That's really the way it is.
I
We
love
came
looking
to-
into this lived experience of you two.
I am validating.
No, what I'm pointing out though is when you get specific and you actually know what the specifics are in your relationship of what's acceptable, what isn't, where are the boundaries, you actually can create harmony now where I don't have to worry, am I doing this too much? Because we got specific and said where the line is, where it's too much. And so then I can respect that, right? So the idea is if you get, I learned this, there is so much power in specificity. And you'll notice that people who don't know what the frick they're talking about, they talk in vague things. People who know what they're talking about talk in specifics.
That's good.
When you get specific in anything, like if you talk to a mechanic about your car, and he's like, well, this is sort of, this is your engine over here, and it makes the car go. You're going to be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But if he's talking to you about specific things about the car, you're like, oh man, this guy knows a lot about cars because he can talk specifics. So again, there is power. Platitudes are vagaries. And my whole point is the solution to platitudinous gospel is getting into interesting specifics. That's what we do on WardRadio. Like, you guys don't, that's the difference between WardRadio, Thoughtful Faith, and some of the other really good shows that are out there from the ones that are nothing more than platitude pushers giving therapeutic Mormonism to people where they basically just talk about feel-good crap.
Are you talking about Faith Matters again?
Yes, that's part of it. No, they get into some stuff sometimes, but there's so much out there that's shallow and vague instead of getting into the really interesting, meaty specifics of our faith.
That's funny. Okay, well, guys, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Is Jacob barking up the wrong tree, or is he speaking truth? Do we need to be much more specific, or should we all be taking lessons from his boy Hank Smith over there?
Oh my
you know what I'm saying?
Hank, I'm going to apologize. I really like a lot of your content. If there's an occasional social media post, I'm like, come on, dude, this kind of feels like a platitude. Give him some meat.
Would you also like to apologize to the guy who always wears the button up?
I'm less inclined to apologize because I really find that podcast to be pretty shallow most of the time.
Oh, that's funny. That's savage. So anyway, let us know what you guys think. Let's keep the conversation going. Is Jacob barking up the wrong tree, or is he spot on? Is Erica a controlling housewife who only lets her husband out once a week? Poor guy. You know what I'm saying?
She does it. She makes a valid point that I need to spend time with my family instead of just being online with you guys.
Or
they come first.
Or has Brittany just joined the intelligentsia and the elite
I have.
of the
I feel elevated already.
the Mormon intelligentsia here without even knowing it. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going. And as always, for this and more, please make sure you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
Hop out the car, I'm in the driver's seat. I pick you up, but there's only room for me.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Before you go, please make sure that you like the video, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please let this be the video in which we earn your subscription, and that you press the alert button so you're alerted to all of our fun live streams and standalone videos and community posts. Also, if you'd like to help us out, please consider joining the channel. Members get all kinds of cool perks and benefits. They get early access to a lot of our videos and special emoticons and emojis during our live streams and preferential treatment there. It's a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, we have a super cool Discord. If you'd like to join our Discord, check us out on wardradio.com. There's a link to the Discord there. Also, you can sign up there for our newsletter. Our newsletter is a lot of fun, and you can put your email address in there. And if you'd like to contribute to the program, please consider looking us up on Venmo or on the CashApp. We're on both of those platforms. Also, if you just want to keep watching more content, right about here and probably right about here are going to be some more videos. Please check those out. And as always, For this and more, please make sure that you look us up and check us out at WardRadio.com.
I bring the energy.